Hello. Welcome to this week's episode of the SoSu series. As always, I'm ridiculously stoked, but more particularly today, we have a breathtakingly talented actor in the city, Erika Rose, who's also a mother of two, which I think is very important because we all have come to this earth through the vessel of a mother. So that is an important title to me and to her as well. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome, Erika.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Coming. How are you?
I am today. I'm feeling pretty good. I had a great conversation with some old friends of mine, and we, ruminated on all of the things. So I feel fortified with some joy and some laughter. And I'm in Seattle right now, and the I don't know if you heard my kids just now. They're screaming out there. But the previous 7 days, because of the wildfires on the West Coast, the air has been filled with smoke. But it rained, and so the sun is shining. You can see the sky. So we've been out already, and we're going to go out again after this. So I'm grateful.
This moment in time, the weather is insane. And there was one day I was driving down the street, and I saw what seemed like the moon. And I was like, that's so beautiful. But it's 1 o'clock. Why is the moon out? And later I realized that it was the sun. And the reason we were able to look directly into it was because the smoke had traveled. So I can only imagine what it's like there.
Yeah. And we don't have the worst of it. So even our air quality index of 191 a couple days ago, when like 0 to 50 is good, that still doesn't compare to what people are experiencing, closer to the fires or in some geographical locations that just want to hold on to it that might not be directly in the path. So breathing in the context of Black Lives Matter and nature, and that we were able to go outside today and take a breath outside.
Yes.
That I take that for granted.
Absolutely. And I think taking just the quality of air, getting the chance. This year is the year of making us realize all the things we might be taking advantage of or not taking advantage of. We get a chance to be outside, get a chance to breathe, get a chance to interact with each other, get a chance to feel safe on the streets for many reasons. And I can only imagine what that is, being even closer to it.
Yeah.
But thank you again for joining us. I mean, let's jump in if it's okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk art. Tell us, for those of us who aren't as familiar with your work, what kind of art do you create? And I'm interested in not just the work that you've created as a career, but also the work you create in your downtime, the work that fulfills you, the work that makes you whole.
Woohoo! I'm an actor, and I create empathetic experiences. I hope to, not just on stage, but amongst people. When I think about what I miss the most about theater right now, it's the people, the collaborators, the people who are not on stage. So anyway, empathy, honesty. I don't know if you can hear them, the kids right now. No, you can't? Wow. That's great. Then I'll stop worrying about it.
But I also embrace that youthful energy.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we need it. So it's really hard to describe my art making right now because I've been trying to figure out why I'm still doing it. I know that's not the question you asked me, really, but
this is fine.
I had been for a while trying to figure out why I'm doing what I'm doing. And when I first started, it was really just show to show. Can I be in that? Can I work at that theater company? Can I work with that director? It's like checking boxes, Our dear brother, Chadwick Boseman, and many other people who have created careers around their value system. That is not something that I could say that, or at least being aware of a value system that is centered on your wholest self and your integrity, that empathy is a part of who I am, and community and harmony is a part of what I strive for. But if harmony alone is the only thing I strive for, I mean, that could also be called people pleasing. And if that is if that is my compass, then I'm just, it's hard. It's just harder. It's harder. So, when you ask me this question, when I think about my career path, I've gotten amazing opportunities. I've been granted many, many gifts. And I've been in control of my yes. And sometimes I give a yes to a play that I don't really want to do. I've always been in control of it, but I have yet to experience the control of saying exactly what I want to say. That's not the art that I make. I say what other people want me to say on stage, but also I found in my life that harmony, that people pleasing, has made its way into my art making. And so, like, when you ask me this question right now, it's like this pause that I needed to take for a very long time. I should have paused 2 years ago when I was doing too much, doing all the things, trying to save all the people but myself.
Oh,
but like, here we are, and there's a great recalibration happening. And so if I'm going to continue to make art in this way as an actor, I need to figure out why.
Yeah,
who I am. I'm 41. I'm not supposed to say my age, but I don't care. I'm one of those people who don't care. I don't have no makeup on either. I should have put some lipstick on or something. But I just, I'm looking forward to being able to answer that question with clarity and purpose.
Yes.
About what my art centers on, or now I can't remember what you asked.
What kind of art you create, but that and kind of intentionality. Do you think that the quarantine has been one of the driving factors in giving you space to consider these things?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not at home. I was saying to a group I was working with that I left, or maybe I didn't say this to them, but I feel like I ran away. I said it somewhere. I don't know if I should have said it out loud. As I'm processing things, the things I said a week ago, I'm in a different place now, a different understanding. But, I ran away. I feel like I ran away from the things that I couldn't figure out how to change and alter in myself so that I could be useful. I wasn't useful in the way I wanted to be. And I couldn't figure out, like, why am I not showing up like that person and like that person? How do they seem so clear? How are they so clear? I'm all over the place. And kind of I felt that way very, very much. So yeah, anyway, this quarantine, this forced stop, but also a very, where it's not just, I'm not doing theater. It's also, I'm thinking about racism and internalized racism and all of those dynamics, and how racism is a part of why I wanted to run away from the theater. And like, who in the world would ever guess that?
Yeah.
With where I have gotten to in this business.
Yes.
So trying to take all of that into account and try to see it clearly and become aware of what I have been doing and who I am right now. Because I am a different person right now than I was 3 months ago, 6 months ago, a year ago, 5 years ago, 6 years ago when I had my first child. So yeah, quarantine. Yeah.
Well, there are some questions that I typically ask in this art section, but I feel like the question that I want to ask is very different. So I'm just going to do that. I'm really big on affirmations and manifestations and things like that, thinking that, especially when we're intentional, which you're referring to, about what we're doing and how we're doing it and where our thoughts are and how that's fueling our existence, we can be really powerful. So listening to this thing that you're talking about of assessing where you have been, assessing in a way that you've been wanting to do, but haven't been granting yourself the time to, and being in a business that doesn't always grant you the time. My question for you is, what would you like to manifest and affirm for this next phase of your artistry, for this kind of, intentionality that you're planning to shift into? What would you like to manifest and affirm for this new phase for your art?
I'm about to cry.
I'm with you.
Yeah. I would like to manifest a love, a deep, deep, deep and abiding love for myself
Mm.
as a human being, and a thankfulness for who I have been, what I have offered, a clarity without judgment about where I am.
Mm.
I want to manifest tenderness in my art, so that I want to manifest standing on my feet and my convictions.
Yes.
I want to manifest. I want to manifest love and a clarity of. Yeah, no, that's it. No, that's it.
And that's beautiful. And
That's it.
I appreciate all of those words, even the realizing what it means to stand feet planted, rooted, and stand in your truth, regardless of the truths of others around you. I know that you have been heard. I know that when it comes to manifesting and affirming things, it is expedited when there are other people manifesting those things for you. So know that I will be sending energy your way to manifest all of that to delve deeper in this search, in this next phase. And, you know, my therapist said this really beautiful thing of reminding all the things that we may be trying to fix or change are things that our being has acquired to allow us to survive to where we are today.
Yes.
So I'm sending days and thanks for everything that you've been up into this moment, and gratitude for everything that you are about to stand inside of.
Thank you, Billie. Thank you. I appreciate that. I do.
Whew.
Look.
Hey, what a beautiful way to start. I feel very fulfilled, and as artists, our art intersects with all of our different existences. So I feel like I'm ready to jump into the next thing if you are.
Yeah.
And that's the movement. We are experiencing an uprising, a movement that is shifting and changing all the time, a movement that is pleading to remind people that our lives matter. So my question for you is, what are your thoughts on the current movement? What are we experiencing? What are we experiencing? Just what is happening right now?
Oh, Lord. My thoughts on this current movement. I feel like there's no other place for us to be. There is no other way to respond to this movement than what is happening right now. It's scary. It keeps me up at night when I think about my children. I've lost the thread of your question, but it's leading me to something anyway. I think about a kind of, everybody's been using the word reckoning, but I mean, what else is it? What else is it but a reckoning? The kind of violence that has been happening since always to Black people, being institutionalized and then normalized for me.
Yeah.
That I am used to a particular amount of violence against Black people. I'm used to the kind of normalized violence that says there's only one of you here and there should only be one of you here. And if there's more than one of you, then something's wrong. You should be against one another. Or now it's, the institutional violence. So it's like, that things that cracked wide open. Black Lives Matter, thank God, is around. Thank goodness. It was here. It's been shouting this, and so have Black people forever been shouting this. Whether it's like in small ways or big organized movement ways, people have been talking about this for a very long time. But thank goodness that organization exists to give voice. I mean, like the threads of the movement all over this country, that it would then spread to other countries. It's insane. Sparking movements everywhere. These things that we absolutely have to talk about. It's like, I've been dealing with this in my small bubble in this way. But I shouldn't be.
Yeah.
I shouldn't be. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. So I'm glad that it's happening, and but it's also forced me to think about the ways, and like all praise and glory and love and tenderness to the person that has survived what she has survived. But this moment is also making me think about the ways that I have been complicit. And so I have been thinking about these things before now, but at this moment I am forced to deal with it and try to change outside of community. Like, we're not together right now. I mean, I'm in Seattle, so I feel kind of homeless. My family's on the East Coast in North Carolina, South Carolina. I'm not near my mother, so I feel very disconnected. But I'm thankful for this moment, because it's just forcing me to address how I exist, and in what ways I have not been proud of myself in all these different contexts, family and the theater and friend groups, and my aspirations and so it's all converging, and I don't see how I emerge from this a different person, because it's already happening. It's already happening.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful for it.
Same.
For the joys and this fire. And for those younger than me, like you and my ancestors, and those who are in the old heads who came before me in the DC theater community, who fought their fights, who might not be screaming as loud as other people right now, but who fought their fights.
Yes.
Curiosity about their fights, so I can learn something from them. So yeah, it's I don't know, it's beautiful.
Yeah. And I think so too. And there's a beauty in the pain, because there are always different layers. Those layers allow for things to exist. And the thing I find beautiful is the possibility of what's to come. So I love that you said, to you, this movement is about the reckoning. Absolutely. And I'm excited to see what that reckoning is. Now, speaking of, what for, why do you feel these injustices are still happening towards us Black people and, BIPOC people as a whole right now, still in 2020?
I feel like everybody I know has said it better than me. But I mean, they're just, you can't create a system that is as flawed as it was. Flawed is such a light word. As racist as it was, without addressing it. It's in the text. It's in all the laws of our Constitution. Like, you can't just wish that away. You can't just, throw some money at something and expect the whole foundation of our nation to be different. Yeah, it's not a thing. That just does not happen. And I also think about, it's just relationships. Like, I mean, the big R relationship, and then like just the connective tissue between each person. Like, what's that? I Am Not Your Negro, that movie about James Baldwin. When he was saying something like, the monster, I'm not gonna get this right, but I'm like that they don't know that the monster that they see is themselves. That is the monster. And you, this probably isn't James Baldwin now, but like, you think that my resistance to being called a monster, or you're not saying I'm a monster anymore, but there's only one of me here, or there's only so far I can get on this ladder here. That tells me something about what you think about me and my kind too. But for there not to be a recognition that America, that white people, that white institutions in the law and policy, all of that have a deep fear of Black people, and project their own fear and anxiety onto us. and like the kind of like mental gymnastics that goes into actually thinking that a movement like Black Lives Matter and those protests are the problem themselves.
Absolutely.
You know, no. We're resisting against an oppressive regime. You know what I mean? We didn't wipe out racist, you know. So I'll stop there. there.
Yes. I mean, but that kind of goes into the next question, which is, you know, if it's about relationships, if it's about reflecting, if it's about seeing ourselves inside of this monster. My question is, what's one actionable step that you feel anyone can take right now to aid in the movement, to aid in this fight for justice? Which one step that anyone can take right now to aid in the movement?
It's, you know, action. Action can be internal. I really can't speak for anybody else. I can't do that. But I will say that finding a way to know who you are and what you are doing and the impact of your choices, micro and macro, is really important. And that we have to understand that we are all a part of it. And for you to figure out in what way you are a part of it. It's not like, am I? It's that you are. And so what can you do? I mean, you know, I've like small things, because again, I do think that yes, policy, big organizational movements, that's all very, 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 very important. The things that I'm doing right now are unlearning some things, relearning some things that I've forgotten, like my wholeness, because I was whole once, you know, and talking to my family about some hard stuff. I want to be whole in my friend groups and in these theater companies and in these organizations. And I have not been bringing my whole self there for a myriad of reasons that are completely understandable. But I also have a choice to create the thing I want to create. And they might take that truth they might take that resistance against like oppression as something to be battled. But it's also my duty to speak up.
Yes. Even
though it's hard. I've heard people say back and forth, I don't know which one it is, but like, you know, shame is useful, or like guilt is useful, but not shame. It's like, well, you know, they're all feelings. Yeah. They're all feelings. So how are they working on you?
Yes.
And the kind of like hopelessness that I have cycled through, or the kind of shaming of myself about how I have not shown up. Like, it's not useful. It's not useful. I'm putting a whole lot of energy into being angry with myself about what I have not done, who I have not been, or what it didn't look like when I was trying to do the thing I was doing. It's like I could put all of that energy into speaking up. But first I got to know what I feel. First I have to find a center, rediscover my center. So, you know, it's like, I took like 3 months. I wasn't talking to anybody, basically. I was not doing well this summer, not at all. I found a great therapist, been talking to her for about 2 months, which has been very, very helpful. But there are lots of things that we can each do in our own lives that are action. And you have to decide for yourself what action looks like. For me, action looks like stepping back and stopping. Like, I'm organizing, I'm doing one-off gigs, I'm trying to help heal friends. I have 2 children. I have a husband in a PhD program. I'm doing all the things. I'm running on empty. You know, like, come on. It's like, you gotta stop.
Yes.
Are you okay? Are you okay?
Yes.
So that is the action. I'm not, you know, and I'm not saying you got to decide for you what it is. But it doesn't look like we just have to be doing something, and we have to be able to look ourselves in the mirror, not our grandchildren, not the next generation who's like, where were you when? What were you doing when? It's looking ourselves in the face in this lifetime. That's it. That's the barometer.
Absolutely. I think that's beautiful. It's the reminding everyone that we play a factor, like we as individuals play a factor in the whole. And if we're even just looking at how can we heal the hurt that's happening inside of the movement, we can ask ourselves, well, are we healed? As we try to heal forward, are we spending the time on healing self? Absolutely. Now, one of the things I've noticed is that your art is intertwining with every question that's been asked, and I think it's inevitable. So let's ask more about that. What is your take on the movement that we're seeing here inside of the DC theater scene, or inside of the theater scene as a whole? What is your take on that?
I feel a little bit disconnected because I'm so far away, and I've also tried to disconnect myself. But what I am noticing is that there is a beautiful, beautiful strength in numbers. The number of people who have been willing to come forward and share their stories and speak about what's going on. Some people are doing their individual thing, writing their individual thing, creating their projects like this, creating a project that involves multiple artists, organizing, like all of that. I mean, it all seems to be feeding into the same change, and it's a beautiful thing. It's wonderful. I think, you know, like the old heads, I'm not gonna speak for any old head but myself. And I don't know if I can really claim old head yet. Like, I don't know.
I don't think so.
not yet. But it's like, it's a crown. Old head is a crown. So, you know, I got a different crown right now. But you know, when I think about the kind of fight that our elders have done in DC theater, how few of us there were, it felt like at that time, how many more Black artists, BIPOC artists there are right now is a blessing. And I think it directly relates to the kind of, in addition to what the hell is happening in our country, but I think it directly relates to the power of the organizing and the power of the voice, that there can be 20 voices talking about their personal experiences, their way in, all of it is valid, all of it is necessary to create the change that we're looking for. I was thinking just now about the African Continuum Theater Company, which you probably didn't get to experience, right?
When I came home from college, I sent my resume there, only to realize when I hadn't heard back after a year that they were closed for a year and a half.
No. Okay. Well, you know, they gave me my first big start. And I had a choice to make about 3 years in when I was offered a show with an up-and-coming director, a white director, to drop out of A Raisin in the Sun, or take this other show that was a Black show, but directed by a white director. And I chose this other show. I chose more money. I chose the up-and-coming director. And I didn't have a very good time. I'll just say that for now. And I still respect this director a great deal. But I spoke with a leader at the time who was in the African Continuum Theater, family. And they were telling me that theaters in this city are going to start doing more Black plays. It's going to happen. They're going to realize that they're lucrative, and they're going to start doing all the Black plays there are. And that's exactly what happened. And so, like, the kind of siphoning of Black talent out of the African Continuum Theater, in addition to other, like systemic funding problems that I'm sure happened. How much did African Continuum get as opposed to a studio theater or, a Shakespeare theater or what have you? So, like, if we could look at those books from these philanthropists and from our city, it would tell a story.
Yeah.
It would corroborate many of the things everybody's talking about. So, so here we are though, but it's like, it all follows. It all begets the other thing. like, so some of those artists were siphoned off into these white theater companies and rose in the ranks in those spaces. And now they're in those spaces. They're in those spaces now and have a voice in those spaces. Like you write next, this artistic director is calling you. You got to be ready to talk to him. But now, like, it's like Black artists in DC are not on the outside knocking to try to come in a way. Mm-hmm. We are here and we're undeniable.
Yes.
And that for me was not the case when I first started. I felt very alone in many of the rooms I was in. So I am proud of and motivated by the movement that is going on in DC theater for everything. And I hope that artistic directors and philanthropists, funders, board members, all of them are able to start thinking deeply and not pointing over there about that thing that person did, but like looking at themselves. Mm-hmm. To take a look. It's like, just take a look so you can know what you're talking about. You know what I'm saying? Like, I still want you here, I think, as long as we have the same information. You know, like, as long as we're telling the same story here about our past, about what we are right now. If we're telling that same story with clarity and understanding and truth, then we can move somewhere together.
And as long as my voice is being welcomed when creating this story about my ancestors and the people that came before me and how we got here. You mentioned this moment where you were faced with a choice and ultimately ended up choosing like the art or like the survival, the career over self. And that's something that we're constantly posed with, you know. Am I going to choose the thing that fulfills me and is aligned with who I am? Or am I going to choose the thing that is going to help aid me in being able to have more solid ground so I can always choose me? And I'm ready for that challenge of choosing art over self to no longer be a thing.
Amen.
And I'm grateful for this, what you've shared about your own experiences. And I'm curious to learn a little more about what your personal experience with injustice and inequality has been as a Black woman artist here in the DC theater scene.
I would say that for most of my career, my formative years, from like 23 to 22 to 29, 30, whatever, it's been the the pressure and I don't want to say violence, but I don't know, the psychological kind of torture of being the only Black person in a room. It's like, it's super simple, you know, but you know, I've been the only Black person alive after the apocalypse. I've been the only Black person alive in Mantua and Padua, and you know what I mean? Like, why we're in Chocolate City. At that time, the ratio was a little bit different.
A little more like Chocolate City.
Yeah. I'm the only one. But then like the trick, so hold on, the trick is, it's like which thread to follow, because I'm gonna lose one of them if I go that way. But you know, the pressure of being the only person in the room and what that tells me as a human being, it's like a double-edged sword. You're good enough to be here in this space. You're great. You're an exception to the rule. None of the other Black people can be here because they're not as good as you. That's why you're here. What you talking about? There couldn't have been 5 other servants in the house. There couldn't have been like, what they doing back there is so special. You couldn't have had anybody. One, I don't want to be a servant. That's what I was saying. But like, what is so special about everybody else that I'm the only one here? And that can do something. That can do something to you. Whether like be the only Black person on this side of the table or the other one. I'm in the room on the first read, and there's not a designer. There's not a. That's my husband back there. That's Patrick. There's not a designer whose arm just pops in. Not a designer. You know, a creative other than myself in the space. And so, like, what happens when you're alone? Well, I like, you know, my outlet was talking to other Black artists that I knew about what I was experiencing. I did not at the time have the courage to speak up about some things that I was noticing. So, you know, and everybody thought it was fine. It was normal. that there's just one of you.
Normal.
Everybody thought it was good. I mean, I knew it wasn't good, but it was normal. I think about, I don't know if you've seen some of these movies, these like John Hughes movies of the 80s, like 16 Candles, like Pretty in Pink. I was looking at this one still image of like, I don't know what the movie was, but this one little kid was like holding up some underwear, right? To show that he had done something. There are other kids in the background, all white. It's Chicago, middle class, and there's like one Black person in the center. And I was like, that's what I learned. That's what I learned. One Black, that person didn't have any lines. It was just a shot, you know, just them. It was just one. You're in the background, you passing through, you're used to justify a joke they want to tell. If the Black person is laughing at it too in the story, then like we can get away with it. It's like, you know, I have felt used.
Yeah.
I have allowed myself to be used sometimes. And if I want to bring it up or talk about it, the kind of, you know, because it's been normalized, because if they're like 6 Black people in the room, because there's 6 white people in the room, but nobody's talking about the thing being white. Nobody says this is white theater. Yeah. Nobody says this is a white space. We don't talk about that. Y'all are normal. What is, and it's also normal that only one of us is here. And the one of us is here better not talk about being the only one here or help us remember that she is Black. Don't do it. I don't want to know. I don't want to think about it. Because if I think about it, I'll be like, why are you the only one here? What does this mean that I think your place is over there and that I don't want any more of you in the room because I get uncomfortable. I don't want to think about that. So that them not knowing what to do with my hair. I had this moment where this costume designer was like going through the cast members, talking to them about their costume and what they want to do with their hair. And then they get to me and they're like, Erika, we'll talk. And then they went on to the next person. No. Like it was so bizarre because I was like, I'm embarrassed. I'm angry. I feel ashamed. Like that those casual things can do these like multiple psychological, this like multifaceted psychological damage to you. If you say something, you're being sensitive, or you're creating something out of nothing, all of that stuff. And it's your first time at this theater and you want to work there again. It's like weighing all of that in a moment. And it's like, you don't think this is a big deal. I'm the only one here. You never had to think about it. Come on to tech and all the white people got haircuts and whatever. And nobody's talked to me about it. I got the same hair, my puff. Nobody knows what to do with puff. They don't know what to do with afro, you know? So, and then, really just like when I am invited to the table, continuing to be the only Black person in the room. That has been really hard for me. And I'm monologuing on you right now, which is what I do usually. I am not succinct, and I want to be succinct in these spaces. And I often stop myself from talking about what I'm noticing because I don't know how to say it real pretty. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't know how to do that. I am an emotional person, and I often feel like it just ends up coming out in a flood. And so I've judged myself and I've shut myself down in some of these situations where I'm watching, the Black actors in the room getting all of the notes and the white actors getting 0, like not a 1. Also, misbehaving in spaces, but having nothing happen, but then like a kind of sideways, because they got to deal with whoever the leader is in the room has to deal with the misbehavior, the harm, but it isn't necessarily directed at the white actors. It could come out sideways and hit the other side of the room, the Black side of the room, misguided, I'm doing it again. But
you're speaking on so much and calling out to so much. And you mentioned this aspect of, you haven't spoken up so often for fear of not getting it the right way or not speaking it, or, the space that we're in. And the fact that you are, as you say, monologuing is an important step in being able to maybe have like less in one moment because you're speaking on the things more often, so there's less to pour out in one moment, and you're speaking on so much, and the fact of, yes, it's a privilege, it's an opportunity to be in this space, but also there is a weight that is provided when I am the only one. And what does that mean? Do I have space to navigate this? Can I navigate this out loud? These are all important things. So my question is, and it's kind of 2 in 1. What is something that the industry needs to address to create a safer space for Black folks, Black women specifically, Black non-binary, you know, what is something that needs to be addressed in order to make it a safe space? And so that also ties into the just what is a step that somebody can take to make theater a safer space for Black people, for Black women.
Addressing racism head on, and not in the way that we have been for the last couple of years, talking about equity and diversity, but actually naming racism as a pandemic that is currently in everybody's organization.
Yes.
That is manifest in a myriad of ways. You know, a strong intake of your process, and individuals in the organization too. Open up them books and look at what the numbers tell you about what you've done. You know, follow the money. What are your choices? What do you value? Who do you value? Open up the books for all the actors you've hired over the last 10, 15, 20 years and see what the discrepancies there are between Black actors and white actors, BIPOC actors and white actors. And, you know, again, like following the money, it's clear that some of these theaters don't know the path forward. And it's clear, to me anyway, that there are artists and other visionaries who do see a way forward.
Yeah.
But do you value the artists that are leading the way forward, and support them with the money, not a random phone call, a random survey? Like, if it's going to change your organization from the very foundation, it means you got to look at everything.
Yes.
You can't take anything for granted. Your intentions, you're a good person. Yeah, I love you. You're great. I respect you. But your intentions are not, they're not a salve or a way to sidestep the introspection that needs to happen. There need to be Black people at the table, and more than one, and more than two, and more than three. What happens if you upset the ratio completely?
Yeah.
With BIPOC people in the room, LGBTQ people in the room, trans folks in the room, like in your organization.
Yes.
I mean, I'm watching an organization right now that has evolved over the last 3 years because there are more BIPOC people in the room. You know, like, you're not going to do this on your own.
Yes. And invite us to the space that to create the safe space. You know, you have to get some contribution as to what we feel that safe space is. Let us in on that. So we're almost out of time. But going back to exactly what you said, that support, right? Like, support us in the real way. Support us. So my question is, how can we support you now?
You can support me by doing what I'm doing, which is taking the time to assess on a granular level, not for any particular goal. Well, the goal is clarity on yourself. That's it. Because if you don't know what you're doing, then you could be doing lots of damage.
Yeah.
And blaming other people for the damage that you're doing. And we're going to be doing damage anyway, but it's possible that we could do less damage.
If we're intentional.
yes, thank you. People can support me by donating, to thinking about going to visit and learn about what's happening on the West Coast. We're so far away. Feels very, very strange to have a foot in 3 different places, in DC to see what's going on, and in Oregon, where I just was, 5 miles away from where the fires have decimated towns, like almost 3,000 homes. Not just homes, people's livelihoods.
Yeah.
Everything. Thinking about some of the farm workers in those areas and what we can do to provide health and safety for these, the populations in our country that are vulnerable to abuse by their employers, and by us, who don't think about the people that are out there in the field picking the fruit that I have on my table, who are out there right now while I'm in my house because it's smoky outside, or who are in that field with, like, a ripped up T-shirt wrapped around their mouths, when the smoke is such that it could damage you forever, but that they have no choice in some cases and no protections. And if everything is wiped away, their homes, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, you can support me by going to learn a little more about what's happening with our BIPOC brothers and sisters. And Wanawari, I'm just in Seattle now for like 2-3 months, but being in a place, you need community. I've been looking for the Black community out here because I need it, because my children need it. And so I found a couple places. Africatown was a wonderful place that I got hooked up with, but also Wanawari, I donated to them. And I'll just read you. Here in Seattle, there's, an arts district in Africatown that used to be, before gentrification, more of a centralized location for Black people to come and protest, and, the Panthers out here, all of that. But anyway, Wanawari is an art house. It also creates space for Black ownership through preservation of our stories, of actual historic places here in Seattle, and then also is a gathering place. Even through the pandemic, they've been finding lots of ways to support the Black community. And they also have this recurring donation or fundraising that is looking to help Black people with rent, with utilities, with also their businesses, rent for their homes, but also businesses. So a centralized place to help our community here in DC, in Seattle. Look, I don't even know where I am.
Yes, but thank you so much for that. And I appreciate giving resources to spread the wealth, spread the knowledge, and to pass it forward. Thank you so much for joining us today, Erika. I'm sending you so much affirmation, so much healing. I'm joining with you. I'm manifesting the things for you as well. And I'm excited to see this next phase for you.
Thank you, Billie. I appreciate you and this creation and this space.
Yes.
Healing. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye. So thank you all so much for joining on this week's episode of the SoSu series. I cannot stress it enough. It's important that we are taking action in regards of healing the world, healing the people around us, healing our communities. But inside of that, it's important to take time to heal yourself. And if the quarantine has shown us nothing, it's just that time is accessible when we make time. So may you take time for your healing today. And until next time, don't forget to speak out and speak up.